All right. Well, it's always good to start off with a round of applause before you've done anything.
Right, we didn't even do nothing for that. Right. I appreciate it.
We like that. Well, good morning. Happy Friday. I'm John Ahmann. For those that are here for the first time, President and CEO of the Westside Future Fund. And I'm not sure who's on my left this morning.
Yeah, man, stranger in our midst, I know. Good morning, y'all. My name is Benjamin Earley. I'm a proud fourth-generation Westside resident and native. I'm honored to work alongside Westside Future Fund, helping to spread the word about the amazing work they're helping to lead here on the Westside. And I'm excited for our special guest this morning. We have representing the Booker T. Washington High School new principal, William Wade, who, you know, we go way back to my days at Frederick Douglass High School. He was an administrator of mine there, and, you know, he's just been soaring ever since in the education field. And, of course, we have the Booker T. Washington's very own Swiss Army knife, Miss Victoria Bambo. She literally does everything, which you'll get to hear more about this morning. Looking forward to hearing from our guest this morning, John.
Yeah, thank you. And I know typically in our show, you know, more and more folks come in, but right now, who's here for the first time? We have some first time.
All right, one time.
All right, welcome.
Welcome in.
Did you hear that? We got a second round of applause. All right. But yeah, thank you. All right. But so our program this morning is we will say a few words up here this morning. The next part of our program, and thank you very much. We're going to move to a devotion. We always have a devotion led by a member of the community, and then we'll give it Benjamin will give out some more updates, talk a little bit about the Westside Future Fund, and then to our future guest. Thank you, Principal Wade, for being here. Benjamin's going to lead that, and we always wind up by 9 o'clock. And the show is being broadcast live right now, so you can see the cameras around. Mm-hmm. And it's also, if you want to tell folks to watch it later, as soon as it's over, it's available on YouTube. Mm-hmm.
That's right, John. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. You can like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Help us spread the word about what's going on here at the summits. It's a great opportunity to not just network, but to also just build a stronger and tighter sense of community here on the West Side. There are a lot of stakeholders, partners, investors, community members, teachers, students, so on and so forth, who come and benefit from the information that's shared here. So we are honored to be able to help facilitate this, you know, twice a month. Again, for the newcomers, it's on the first and third Friday of every month. Only exceptions is national holidays.
Well, no, yes, I was about to say, no, we're not that dedicated. National holidays, we're not here.
Yeah, but we look forward to, you know, engaging with you online. And if you would like to participate, especially, you know, those tuning in right now on social, we appreciate all of you. But in general, if you would like to participate with one of these summits, we're happy to have you. You can always just send us an email at info@westsidefuturefund.org. Just let us know you would like to be a part of the program in whatever regard, and we'll be happy to engage with you and get back with you.
All right. Well, I think we're ready for the next part of our program with our devotion. And for those that kind of tee this up, those that are new, is we always take inspiration from the devotion from the story of Nehemiah in the Old Testament, the story of the cupbearer to the king called back to Jerusalem to first start with rebuilding the wall, but then the story is a lot more than that in terms of common values to bring together a community and as kind of inspiration for our collective revitalization effort on the West Side. So it's just an inspirational touch point. So we really appreciate members of our community coming to give devotions. Thank you. And before I bring you up, one of the things I read every single time before the devotion is a leveling statement. So I'm going to read that now, and you'll see it up behind me. It's become our tradition to begin our meetings with a positive, inspirational message from a member of our community. Recognizing that many in our community are driven by their spiritual faith to participate in the West Side revitalization effort, the time at the beginning of our meeting is an opportunity to share various inspirational reflections. While the speakers may articulate their personal faith, it's meant to be inclusive, inspiring, and meaningful with the story of Nehemiah as our guide. So Victoria, who's a project liaison, partnership liaison, and executive assistant to the principal, is our devotion speaker. And looks like you've been working with APS since 2016, so thank you, especially through all the hard times via COVID. And we really appreciate you being willing to lead us in our devotion this morning, so please come on up. And please, I know we got some good applause leaders here, so let's welcome her up.
Good morning, everyone. I came from the classroom, so we're going to try that one more time. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'll take it. So I'm going to start with just the irony of today's situation. When I was asked to do the devotion, I thought to myself, well, this is quite ironic because, as many of you may or may not know, religion is not necessarily allowed in APS schools and classrooms. I am a full-blown Nigerian woman. And so what that means is I was raised with a tribe, but most importantly, we lived off of African proverbs. So regardless of what you found yourself doing, there was always an African proverb that followed. And so when they said to read from the book of Nehemiah, I thought to myself, okay, this is funny. I remember starting in 2016 as a long-term sub. I came in as an ELA sub, and I started to do journal prompts every day because of the school and the type of students that we had. And so every day I would find myself at home reading the journal prompts and just crying. And I thought to myself, what in the world can we do for these children? This is 2016, 2017, way before the pandemic. And so then me being an African woman and being raised off of African proverbs, I think to myself, well, every day before class begins, we will have some type of prayer, some type of African proverb that I'll ask them to break down and what does this mean to them. Long story short, the principal ended up calling me in and politely letting me know that I was unable to do this. So again, when I was asked to do a devotional, I said, well, this is great. This is a great opportunity to bring the higher power into the school system. So now we're going to shift into the book of Nehemiah. For those of you all that may or may not know some of the key points, we're going to kind of just jump on in. But before we do that, if you all do not mind, I would like for you all to repeat the first two words, rebuild and restore. Okay, so in the book of Nehemiah, Jerusalem is torn down, and remember, Jerusalem is God's holy city. And so now Nehemiah finds himself in exile when he learns of the conditions of Jerusalem. He prays, and God answers. Nehemiah prays, and God answers. He's given the job to be the cupbearer for the king. Well, the king decides to give him the tools. He fully equips Nehemiah to go into Jerusalem to rebuild the gates and the walls. Now keep in mind, Ezra has already rebuilt Ezra and his people have already rebuilt the temple. But now Nehemiah will go in and he will rebuild the walls and the gates. And so now during this journey, there are three specific villains, aka enemies, that do not let up. They do not want Nehemiah and his people to come in and rebuild the gates and the walls. Now, mind you, the city is very ruined. The city is still ruined, but the people decide to rebuild the temple, rebuild the gates and the walls. Now, Nehemiah knows that the enemies will go from being verbally aggressive to physically aggressive, so he decides to equip his people. Not only does he equip his people, but he continuously encourages his people. Now, within those 52 days, a little less than 2 months, or maybe a little over 2 months, the three specific enemies tried to kill Nehemiah several times. Nehemiah stays strong. Him and his people continue working. They are able to rebuild the walls and the gates. They establish new rules. They establish new principles. They bring the people together every single day. And as a collective, the entire community rebuilds what it means to be a member in Jerusalem. So now we know that the purpose is to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, even though the city is still in ruins. The temple has already been rebuilt by Ezra and his people. Now Nehemiah will come in and rebuild the gates and the walls. Now, many people thought to themselves, what is the point of rebuilding the gates and the walls and the temples when the city is still in ruins? Nehemiah decides that he still has to give the people a chance. Now, I want you to shift over to APS, the students, specifically the Westside students of APS. I want you to think about, if you're familiar with this area, I want you to think about what you see when you drive around the west side of Atlanta. To many people, the city looks ruined, specifically the West End. To many people, the city looks ruined. But now I want to shift to 2020 when our kids face COVID. For years, they are now stuck in the same space that they once used to run from. And now schools are back open, and we are fully operating, and now we find ourselves, if you're a good educator with an amazing principal leader, you find yourselves being very much like Nehemiah and the people. You know there are enemies. You know there are many things that are going to come against you and attempt to tear you down and deter you from rebuilding the walls, the gates, and even the temple, when other people will look and say, well, why? These people don't look like they deserve anything nice, so why would we give them anything nice? So we know now it's a hard fight in a short amount of time, but the job must be done. Now, much like Nehemiah and his people, APS employees often tend to grow weary. We know that the fight has to be fought, but the enemies are intense. And oftentimes the enemies are the same people that you are attempting to pour into. Oftentimes because they do not know that if they listen and follow, that you will lead them somewhere great. But now there's something specific that Nehemiah does for his people to be able to rebuild the way that they do, and again, in such a short period of time. He equips them and he encourages them. So we ask that you all that are here today and that are tuning in to get prepared to equip APS, specifically Booker T. Washington High School, and to also provide us with encouragement. The encouragement and the tools for success made it possible to not only rebuild the temple, to rebuild the gates, the walls, and to restore the faith of the people. And although there will always be something trying to kill the passion, standing together, working together, and encouraging and equipping each other, we can actually change the city. So again, we thank you all for being here. We thank you all for supporting us, and we ask that you continue to equip and encourage us as we attempt to rebuild the walls, the gate, and the temple of the west side of Atlanta, specifically Booker T. Washington High School, the students and their families, and the community. Thank you all so much for being here, and I would love to bring up next our amazing version of Nehemiah at Booker T. Washington High School. Thank you all so much.
All right, that was awesome. Thank you. I appreciated your, focusing on the rebuild, and everyone was saying, I live now in Vine City, and and driving around, kind of your point, you can see a lot of rebuilding opportunities, and one of the things I didn't really appreciate till I lived in Vine City is also the assault on the psychology that can take, just to see that on a daily basis, and especially when you're not too far from other neighborhoods that look very different, right? Then you're kind of left with, well, why? So that encouragement, but I also was saying to the principal earlier, what always is back to we call it the temple is to go by Booker T. Washington and remember that when the school started, the circumstances in which it started, and the perseverance, as the first black high school in the Southeast, right, and the inspiration, to remind us of, what can get done when people, join together. So, yeah, we need that temple to thrive. So thank you for reminding us. Let's give her another round of applause. And I say there's an archivist at Booker T. Washington, and to really be inspired is to spend time with an archivist and hearing all the folks who have walked the halls and come out of Booker T. Washington High School. I know we're going to hear about that more in a minute. So the next part, I know we get a few new folks here for the first time, but one of the things we do every single summit, and you're wondering, what is he doing waving around this microphone on the stage? Well, I'm going to walk around in a second, and you can use this microphone to introduce yourself. And one of the things we do at every summit is take the time for the self-introductions. So we'd say your name, say your affiliation, and really don't say a lot more than that, just so we have time to get around to everybody. But if you have announcements, we have other ways to get them out. And really encourage, as we're doing the introductions, to listen to who's introducing them, because the real purpose is to help build networking. I mean, back to the encouragement and the rebuilding, that's from people coming together. So the introductions we want to really use as a time for folks to be able to create the space to get to know each other and build community. And so I'll start over here, and we'll go through the whole, through everyone that's here on the self-introductions. And when you self-introduce, kind of hold the mic close to your mouth so it'll pick it up.
All right, I'm Ahmann Ahmann. I'm with the Atlanta Masjid of Al-Islam and Booker T. Washington High School class of 1968.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Gloria Dorsey with the Atlanta Humane Society.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tracy Bates, and I'm with the Historic Westside Cultural Arts Council, the Historic Westside Gardens Board Member, English Avenue Neighborhood Association President, and Executive Director of English Avenue Community Development Corporation.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Deontay Bridges, proud 2010 graduate of Booker T. Washington High School and assistant principal at Atlanta Heights Charter School.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Shayla Barlow Jones. I'm the Social Emotional Learning Coach and Partnership Liaison at Hollis Innovation Academy. I am also the founder of KBG Scholarship Foundation, honoring my 14-year-old son that was murdered. Our goal is to support youth, at-risk youth, and also children that are surviving the loss of parents and guardians.
Good morning, Rogers Williams with Icon Filmworks.
Good morning, Rachel Carey, Westside Future Fund.
Good morning, civil engineer, or Dustin Benson, civil engineer at Kimley Horn. I've been living in Venetian Hills for about 2 years now.
Benji Curran, also Kimley Horn, civil engineers. We were primarily in development, so would impact us as well. So.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sharon Thrasher, a longtime attendee to these meetings and a future resident of the West Side, because I'm coming to watch those fabulous sunsets. I live on the East Side, and sunrises are great, but I'm coming to watch the fabulous sunsets on the West Side.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Anthony Lawrence, and I'm with Mr. Cheesecake, LLC.
All right, thank you. Sorry.
Hey, good morning. Jeffrey Brown, a Chief of Marketing and Development for Steam Truck, a mobile innovation lab and makerspace, primarily focusing on 3rd through 8th graders.
Awesome.
Good morning, I'm Brandon Johnson. I am here with Street Smart Youth Project.
Good morning, Anthony Bellows. I'm a Westside resident.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome, John. Good morning, family. Tillman Ward, Community Resources of Atlanta, based in historic, original Westside, Vine City.
Thanks, Ellen.
Good morning, everyone. Tamika Askew with Westside Future Fund.
Wait, tell folks what you do with us.
Oh, I am the manager of Home on the West Side.
Yep, great.
Good morning, Ashley Collier with Westside Future Fund. I'm in development.
Good morning, everyone. Crystal Walker, Westside Future Fund.
Good morning, Raquel Hudson, Westside Future Fund, Director of Programs.
Good morning, Natasha Anderson, Accounting Manager for Westside Future Fund.
Lewis Anderson, Development Project Manager, Westside Future Fund.
Good morning, Nicole Jones, Office Administrator for Westside Future Fund.
Good morning, Daryl Peak, Icon Filmworks.
Good morning, James Hammond, Icon Filmworks.
Hello, good morning. I'm Brandon Brando for TMPAV.
Good morning, David Herring, TMPAV.
Good morning, everyone. Misty Kelly, TMPAV.
Good morning, my name is Shobek Cillian, TMPAV.
Jamero Evans, TMPAV.
Tasama Haskins, TMPAV.
Good morning, Jerry Kiernan, AP The Conversation.
Good morning, Charles Merriweather, Goodwill.
Good morning, DJ Terry, Chief of Staff to City Councilman Byron Amos.
Good morning, City Councilmember Byron Amos. I'm proud graduate of the 1991 class, Booker T. Washington High School, current GO Team member of the GO Team as well, and a legacy resident of Vine City.
So I'm kind of confused with the colors. I couldn't figure out where you're from.
Now you know.
No, right. That's good.
Good morning, my name is Gerard Reynolds. I'm a public relations consultant for Redclay-Hill.
Good morning, I'm Daryl Assure with Chick-fil-A, and Brother Elamine, you graduated in '68. I was born in '68.
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. I'm Shirley Coleman, Director of Development and Marketing with Sadie G. Mays Health and Rehabilitation Center.
Good morning. My name is Bob Dickinson of Dickinson Partners Group, but Executive Director of STEAM Sports Foundation.
Good morning, Joey Brown with Partners in Change.
Good morning, Caitlin Behringer, Open Hand Atlanta and Mechanicsville resident.
Good morning, Dr. Marcia Francis, Executive Director of STEAM Truck, an innovative STEAM education nonprofit that works in the West Side.
All right, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thurman Green, Director of Community Partnerships, Partner in Change.
Good morning. I'm Kathleen Bryant with Partners in Change. We provide free life coaches for adults pursuing new goals.
Good morning. Good morning, Clement. Neil Shorthouse. I'm with Partners in Change.
All right, well, some folks came in after you spoke, so maybe I'll let you save yourself.
Good morning again, Victoria Bambo, former BTW educator, project facilitator, partnership liaison, executive administrative assistant to Mr. Principal William C. Wade.
I don't think we didn't get you, did we?
Good morning, everyone. Rosario Hernandez, resident of English Avenue, the executive director of Historic Westside Gardens, and I'm also on the board of the English Avenue Neighborhood Association. It's great to see everyone today.
Yeah, and also, we'll say this again at the end, but Rosario will be our summit guest for our next summit, talking about all her work on the historic West Side with the community gardens. Thank you. All right, before we kind of start with the rest of the program, did I miss anyone that wanted to get introduced? I saw a couple folks come in. Yeah, hey, always.
Good morning. My name is Helen Smith-Price, and I am a proud former resident. I grew up on the West Side, and I also have the pleasure of serving on the board of the Westside Future Fund.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And see, hey, Clay, did you want to say hello to folks?
Oh, I'm sorry. Council member Cleta Winslow, served 28 years on the Atlanta City Council and live in West End, and just happy to be here this morning to get information. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. All right. Do a self-introduction. Say your name.
Okay, good morning. My name is Aisha Wyatt. I'm a community member, and this is Amina McDonald, who is shy.
All right. Well, I did that until I was well into my 20s. All right, anybody miss anybody else before we get on with the rest? All right, well, appreciate taking the time to do that. So maybe just kind of collective round of applause to say thank you. And I know you're gonna lead us in a electronic check-in, right?
Yeah, we actually have a nice little crowd online. I'm gonna shout out a few people here. We got watching Miss Sherry Belil, Booker T. Washington Avengers. We love what y'all do. Good morning. Our beloved Sonia Dawson, thank you for tuning in. Miss Muriel Murphy, as always, thank you for tuning in. Rochelle Barnett, thank you for tuning in. Board member Miss Sylvia Russell, thank you for tuning in. All the great work that you all do. Let's see. Kimberly Moore, Margaretha Woolfolk, thank you both. Diana Palmer Price, thank you. Mother Moore, good to see you at the Ride for the West Side, which was amazing. If you happen to miss it, we're gonna make it an annual thing. So, you know, we're looking to see you next year. But great to see you, Mother Moore. Councilman Amos is in person and also streaming on social, so we appreciate you being the double watcher today. My brother, Howard Lee Robinson Jr., thank you for tuning in. Kimberly Moore, thank you. Dr. Candy Tate, you are amazing. Thank you for tuning in. Myra Surratt Walters, thank you. Terry Harrison Hawthorne, thank you. And I think Marie Armstrong, Raising Expectations, another fantastic organization doing work here on the West Side to help uplift the youth in terms of education and just all around preparation for adult life, adulting, as we call it. But thank you again. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Again, if you want to share these summits post-summit, they're permanently available on YouTube and Facebook, so you can go ahead and share them, follow them, all of that good stuff, and stay engaged with us. Again, we love to stay engaged with you.
All right, thank you. Great all the folks that are online. And to give you a little explanation about the organization hosting the Westside Transform Summit, the Westside Future Fund. So you can see the slide about our vision, mission, and values. So we take a lot of inspiration from all the great historical figures and leaders coming out of the West Side, and our vision statement built around a Washington alumnus, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And our next slide is our volunteer board of directors. So one of them is here today. She introduced herself. Helen, thank you for being here, and grew up on the West Side. And I heard on the social media check-in, Sylvia Russell on our board, I know is listening, and she also serves on the GO team of Booker T. Washington High School. So I know she's looking forward to the conversation later this morning. So a great group of board members, and they all do this from a volunteer perspective. And I think our next slide, and you heard them, a fair number of them introduce ourselves, our Westside Future Fund team members. So thank you for being here this morning. And then our next slide is one of the things we do the second Saturday of each month are community tours. So if you're interested in seeing some of the rebuilding work as well as seeing some of the challenges that are still out there, that's what we do. We tour through English Avenue, Vine City, AUC, Ashby Heights, and I was saying to the principal, we always go by Booker T. Washington High School and talk about what the high school has meant to this community. So please sign up for that if you're interested. And then I think our next is a reminder, if you haven't already signed up, if you're a West Side resident or you work for a not-for-profit, you're eligible for a gift card from the Home Depot. So we'll draw that name up at the end. So if you pre-registered, you're good to go. And if you didn't register and want to, you still have a few minutes to do that. And I think, and also, and he was here this morning thanks to Charles Merriweather, is very active with Goodwill of North Georgia. We also have a Goodwill gift card as well. So you can sign up for both of those. And I think those are yep, I'm looking at my notes, Benjamin. Those are I think we're getting ready to go transition to you.
That's right.
Right.
Well, thank you for following the script there, John. You're
Right.
an amazing performer.
It's amazing what's right in front of you, what you can do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for this next bit, our featured presentation. We got a powerful brother coming up here this morning. And, I was happy to hear that he answered the call to take the lead over at Booker T. Washington High School. I mentioned this earlier in the program, but back in my Frederick Douglass High School days, which was founded in 1968, my fellas, Principal Wade was actually, a beloved administrator of the school, and he was always known for having a good rapport with students and being able to get students to actually buy into the idea that we have a bright future ahead of us, even if we are coming from adverse backgrounds. And so I've always carried a lot of the lessons that, Principal Wade has instilled in his students throughout life, and it's done me well. So I appreciate that, big dog, and it's good to have this full circle moment with you. But that being said, he is the principal of the first African-American high school in the Southeast, Booker T. Washington High School, Principal William C. Wade. We're going to have a brief introduction video while we get the chairs set up, and after that, we'll have our brother join us on stage. Round of applause, please. All right, one more time for Principal Wade. Thank you for joining
Yes,
us, sir.
Thank you.
All
Good
right.
to be here, B.E.
All right. Well, I want to jump right into it. Like I mentioned, you spent years as an administrator over at Douglass High School before continuing your career in many different places. And now you've brought your skill set back to the Westside, to Booker T. Washington. What inspired you to answer the call to come back to the Westside for education?
Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure being here. Usually I'm in my office between 6:30 and 6:45, and then I start walking the halls to see if we're ready, right? And I'm talking to myself every day. So it's great to be here speaking with all of you this morning to talk about our journey towards success and perfection at Booker T. Washington High School. Well, I've had a long journey, as Benjamin mentioned, and my career started in urban Memphis City Schools in Shelby County, Memphis, Tennessee, where I served a very similar demographic that I served here in Atlanta and on the West Side. I was very excited to move to Atlanta, and I came to Atlanta right after the Olympics. And during that time, it was just the move was get to Atlanta for the opportunity. So I had aspirations to lead an urban African-American high school. So, this was a great place to come and get that work done. And when I came, I started my career here in Atlanta Public Schools at D.M. Thurl High School for 1 year as a mathematics teacher. I moved over to Frederick Douglass High School under the leadership of Dr. Samuel Hill. And some of you probably know he's a legend. And when he calls you, you come. And so that's how I got over to Frederick Douglass High School. He heard of my work in the classroom at D.M. Thurl High School. So when I went over, I found a very large school. At the time, had grown to be the largest high school in the city. And after teaching there, coaching basketball, head baseball coach, my success in the classroom allowed the principal at the time, Dr. Eldrick Horton, to tap me as one of his administrators, and I was proud to do so. And at that point, I realized that I can affect the masses. I can really affect change, and that's what I wanted to do. But early on in my career, you really don't see it. Year 1, year 2, you don't see it. But fast forward, and because I don't want to spend too much time on that, fast forward, leaving Atlanta to go to, after being in Atlanta, Frederick Douglass High School, Alonzo A. Krim High School, and going to the school district of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania to work in another urban setting with a large focus on frozen communities and schools that needed tons of support. I was able to, through the interview process, to reflect and say, wow, I've really been effective, because they had to check references, superintendent had to call superintendents, and everyone said that I was doing a great job. And I was hooked forever. I was hooked at that time. So turned around 3 schools in 8 years in Philadelphia, Roberts Vaux High School, Dr. Martin Luther King High School, and Germantown High School, which merged with Martin Luther King High School. That work was really intentional and deliberate and very tough work. All of the same demographics, the similarities that we see now in Atlanta public schools that we have seen. And that work, once again, let me know that I was in the right place, and I accepted the calling to be an educator. That merger allowed me to really get on the get national attention, because no one thought that we could do it. No one thought that we could merge those 2 historically black high schools in Philadelphia. We did it. We were successful. It was captured by Ed Stack, the owner and CEO of Dick's Sporting Goods. He started a program called Sports Matters. And I was happy to see some of the Sports Matters funding in action right here in Atlanta. I was over at Usher Collier yesterday, and I saw some properties that were built because of that movement. But I was the first installation of that movement because they filmed a movie about my merger right in Philadelphia. It's called We Could Be King. That movie, all the proceeds were donated to youth sports around the country. After that, I was called to be the associate superintendent of schools out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, because they had some traditionally underperforming schools that needed to be turned around. So I took the call, and once again, I had a great time in Santa Fe, very similar demographic, different challenges, larger ESOL populations. And after that, I was ready. Springboard, I wanted to go to the top. So I took a job as the CEO, CEO superintendent of a charter network in Pittsburgh, Urban Pathways, K-5 charter network. That work was very intentional once again, did a lot of work, turned things around for urban population. And then after that, I thought I had done enough, right? But I left to work in higher ed at Coahoma Community College, the only 2-year historically black college in the country. It's in Clarksdale, Mississippi, which is where I graduated from after leaving Chicago. I went back to serve as the Director of Educational Outreach. That means I went out and I had to package education and take it to people who couldn't get to us. And so I worked with all the high schools in the 5 counties that fed into the community college and with dual enrollment. I was over all the adjunct professors, but I did not feel the connection that I felt in K-12 education in our urban settings. So this call came, and I knew I could not turn my back on the west side of Atlanta, and so I'm back. And when I come back, I immediately see tons of my students everywhere congratulating me on being back. And then I realized Ben was a leader in the area, and so now I really got arrogant, right? I was like, really, like my work is really working. And then when you guys just flashed your board members up, one of my courageous baseball players at Douglass, Mr. Courtney English, I couldn't believe it. I said, well, you know what? I'm successful now, right? My kids are doing big things and working just like I was working as a young man when I came to Atlanta way back in the 90s, right after the Olympics. So glad to be back, tons of intentional work, and I look forward to being here many, many years. I'm nowhere near retirement.
I hear you. I would say his bio is in the bulletin, but there it is. We appreciate it. No, that was great.
Short.
That was great. But one of the key words there, demographic.
Right.
Demographic. And I think something that is very, very, very important when you talk about the West Side is cultural competence. And, you know, when you have that as a huge factor in actually making an impact in the lives of the students, their families, and so on, you know, what is it that allows you to bridge that gap, that allows you to bond? What have you found successful that has allowed you to make the connection with the students here on the West Side to actually inspire them to pursue full
Well,
potential?
I'm from the same demographic, Ben. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, a product of Chicago Public Schools. Same demographic on the south side of Chicago, same challenges. And I knew then as a student, if I wanted to be successful, that I had to have tunnel vision and I had to tune out all the noise around me, right? All the noise that comes with being an urban teenager in high school, urban student in an urban setting with all, I don't want to start naming the noise, right? We know what that is, but I knew that as an educator, I probably couldn't work in suburban America, right? That cultural competence piece would be going against me at that time. So I wanted to work in populations that I was very familiar with, and that's why I was able to find Memphis, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, because they all were me, younger versions of me. So, but upon arrival here, it's just building relationships and making sure our students can trust you. You can't teach our students anything unless they know that you care for them. So it's genuine, and I think that is what, after being at Washington for a couple of weeks, that is what was echoing in the hallways. Mr. Wade really cares about us. I didn't go in badgering anyone about some of the key performance indicators that we had to focus on. I couldn't focus on those things the first 2 or 3 weeks of school. I had to build relationships. So I really intentionally went out to build relationships with teachers and students alike, letting them know that I was genuine and it was organically really working, that I was there to really stand in the gap to help them. So no other place is better for me than urban America and the west side of Atlanta, which I'm very familiar with.
I love it. Mayor Dickens, who we had on a couple weeks ago, you know, he's made a commitment to ending racial inequities in Atlanta through neighborhood improvement strategies.
Right.
As an expert in education, you know, what are some of the priorities that you see as necessities to making a more level playing field for Black and brown students inside the classroom?
We have to make sure that our students, our Black and brown students, have equity and access to everything that other students in this country have access to. And Mayor Dinkins and everyone else have done a very good job with that, because these things were in place when I came on board. Through the pandemic, our students could not fall short with the technology that was needed to be successful. We all have that. We're a one-to-one school. The technology is in place. The resources are in place. But I want to make sure that we focus on increasing our parental involvement numbers, increasing our attendance numbers, increasing our partnerships, which is what we're doing now, increasing our mental health, which is what Atlanta Public Schools is really taking a lot of time with, making sure that we have, we're serving the full child, meaning that we have partnered with Hazel Health, and we're going to have telehealth services in our school for to serve our students physically and mentally. So the rollout is happening right now, and I think that that is very equitable across the board, which will allow our students to be successful in the classrooms. We can't start talking about numeracy and literacy until we level the playing field with the things that get in the way of learning. So we're doing a great job with that now. We just have to make sure that we shine a light on that so people know that it's available. A lot of people don't know that it's available right now, and they don't know to take advantage of it. And we have a long way to go, because now we are in the West Side cluster, we're turning all of our schools into STEM schools, right? And STEM schools, we have to have high levels of creativity, innovation, literacy, numeracy, and we can't do that if we have this noise, and we're trying to create better students. And so that's what we're going to continue to do at Booker T. Washington High School. We're going to continue to make sure that we level the playing field so that our students can have a fighting chance moving forward, to make sure that our students are effective in a pluralistic setting, not just in the Atlanta area, that we can go and our students can leave here, and especially from the Washington cluster schools, the West Side schools, the Douglas Washington cluster, that we can leave here and we can tell everyone what our students what a graduate looks like from Atlanta Public Schools, from our cluster of schools. And that's what we're working to norm that That's going to be a norm, and that's what we are. I'm sitting here alone, but we frequently meet through the leadership of Dr. Woolfolk, who leads this cluster, the Frederick Washington cluster, who is an all-star former principal from M. Agnes Jones. So she's leading the work. We work together. We communicate. We grow together. Yes, this is my 32nd year, but I learn something new every day, and that's going to help level the playing field and create more equity and access on the west side of Atlanta.
And, you know, yeah, we can applaud that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And again, shout out Ms. Woolfolk, Dr. Woolfolk. Thank you for tuning in on social. We appreciate you and all the work that you've done. Booker T. Washington, we've mentioned it, is, you know, the first high school for African Americans in the Southeast. Alma mater of, you know, iconic civil rights legends like Dr. King.
Right.
What does it mean to be entrusted with that legacy? You know, what does that mean to you personally? What does it mean to your career? And, you know, in what sense does that also give you a sense of urgency for, you know, various aspects of what you do?
I take that very serious. I'm honored to stand on the shoulders of such great giants while I do this work. You know, I've been a principal before, and I elevated above the principalship. Now I'm back. And that's the reason why I'm really back, because I couldn't pass the opportunity to lead this historical, great institution. And when I tell my colleagues and friends around the country that that's what I'm doing, they can't believe it, right? They start to Google it to see if they're fact-checking me, right? And sometimes I had to fact-check myself. I can't believe I'm the principal of a school that have created such legends in the African-American community. And so many scholars to come from Booker T. Washington High School. So I am honored to serve in this capacity, but I do know that the other leaders don't face the challenges that we're facing now, right? I have to make sure that we compete against a world that's totally different than when I went to school. A world that will really distract our students if we're not very intentional about the work that we're doing at our schools. So that's the challenge that I face, and that's going to be my legacy upon my exit, is that they'll know that, everyone will know that my team of administrators and teachers alike, and parents and students and community members, we really held the serve and made sure that our students competed on a global level through technology and innovation, because that's the new piece that we have to bring forward that was not in existence 100 years ago.
Yeah. So with that being said, what are some of the biggest needs for Booker T. Washington right now?
Well, like I said, around the equity and access piece, we have to make sure that we start with the vision first and make sure everyone knows what we're doing with our STEM program. So we are approaching being a 100% STEM-wide school, a STEM-wide cluster of schools, meaning that our elementary schools can feed into our middle schools and see some of the same programming, and our middle schools can feed into our high schools and see the same programming. So we will need help along the lines of creating our vision and our culture is number one. We can't jump to putting all the focus on what's going on in the classrooms and on mastery of numeracy and literacy until we're clear with everyone. So the help that we need is to everyone help to tell our story. We're open book. We have platforms that you can visit. You can tune into our Go Team meetings. You can stop by with Coffee with the Principal and several other platforms that we have put in place so that you can help us out and help tell our story. And we want to create a more culture of our parents understanding, a culture, a norm that's what's happening in our classroom. And so those things, and you won't know unless you come and visit us and really dig into what we're doing. We want to continue our focus on parental involvement. Our parental involvement numbers are nowhere near where we want them to be. So we want to really focus on that. And then we want to focus on attendance. We want our young people to really take coming to school serious. That's a challenge. It's not an indictment on Booker T. Washington High School. It's a challenge across America once again, because we're competing against so many other things. For goodness sakes, our students are walking around now with the world in their hand. I didn't have that. I could probably write a note and get it to the other side of the classroom before the teacher intercepted it, right? But now our students can talk to students in other parts of the world, not just the country. So that's how the noise I'm talking, it's one of the aspects of noise that I'm speaking about. How do we keep them in the room, keep them focused? So those are the things that we really need help with. And I could really dig deeper into that. But after we establish that, the vision and culture of the STEM movement that we're trying to do and all the support that we need with that, we want to make sure that everyone understands what's the output, what's the student outcomes that's happening. Everyone understands our MAPS assessments, our milestone assessments, our ACT scores. What do these big high stakes test scores mean? What does it mean for the community? What does it mean for our parents? What does it mean for the school district and the state? So people really need to understand that. So we're having those open sessions at the schools so that we can talk about it. The district hosts sessions so we can understand. But that's what we need help with, just the attention brought to what we need at our school, and what do we need to really make sure that we transform the modern day Booker T. Washington High School, the modern day, and that's what we're working on right now. So it's nowhere near like it used to be for Brother Amos at the school. It was nowhere like what it was for folks that were there years ago. It's just different. And it's the name, but it's different. And we have to make sure that we don't pass up the opportunity to always tell our story.
And so I guess the flip side of that question would be, what are some of the greatest hindrances? I know you spoke about parental involvement, attendance, and attention, given that we got smartphones now. But what are some of the biggest hindrances besides those that you find, are impactful?
So through all of that, we still have to deliver content, right? And we still have to teach, and we still have to bring attention. But I think the biggest hurdle that we're facing right now is mental health in our community. Some of our young people and families are facing tons of traumatic incidents that distract them. And we face it, the school accepts it around our school and other schools around the country. The trauma comes to us every day. And how do we deal with it? And I have seen that in the Black and brown communities, it's not cool for us to accept the challenges that we're going through. It's not a norm for us to seek help. It's just not a norm. And those things get in the way of learning and get in the way of progress. So that goes back to Hazel Health. Not only accommodations, we should really applaud the efforts of the Atlanta Public Schools Board and Dr. Herron for partnering with Hazel Health. Now we have to get folks to use it, right? We have to get people to use it, right? So we're going to have these safe spaces in all of our schools. How do we bring more attention to making young people and families comfortable with saying, hey, I need help? Going back to Philadelphia, it's a school that has mastered it in Philadelphia, where the students accept that they need help. And the students, Dunbar High School in Philadelphia, and their attendance went up, serious incidents went down, parental involvement went up. It's just an amazing story, and I'm proud to say that the principal, Richard Gordon, I was able to choose him to replace me at one of the schools I turned around as I moved forward. The superintendent at the time allowed me to do that. And through that work alone, Richard has become the national principal of the year 3 times running, because he did that work, and that work was anchored not in the core content areas. It was anchored in mental health. And now he's won his little segment of the city, right? So how do we scale that up and make sure that his identical demographic is here in Atlanta, in Chicago, in Miami? How do we make sure that we can do that, put all the resources in place, put all the talented staff members in place, and make our young people in our community feel comfortable about saying, I need help? So that's a big focus of ours.
I mean, I think that's a huge thing. And you said it. It's something that is not really addressed as much as it should be, especially in our community. And, it shows up in other ways. Like, when students aren't able to express themselves in a healthy manner, in a healthy, safe setting,
right.
Obviously that comes out in
Yes.
other ways that aren't as constructive. And so I know that goes back into the cycle of, trauma and feeding more trauma and responding to trauma with more trauma.
With more trauma, right.
And, it's a cycle. So I'm excited to see how that plays out at Washington. And I know with you at the helm, we got some good high expectations over there, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out. I'm gonna open the floor up to questions from the audience after this, but I wanted you to highlight your pride points. I know that's a big thing for you.
I'm very proud of the growth that we've shown in my 10 weeks in town. with our average daily attendance. More students are coming to school and coming to school on time. We're not what we used to be, but we're not what we're going to be either right now. So we're working hard on that. And I'm very proud about the intentional work that we're doing around literacy and numeracy with our PLCs and our professional learning communities of teachers on their planning time, actually creating plans around the individual learner. We're not just trying to throw a cookie cutter approach to all of our students. We're planning in our planning sessions to make sure that our students are all learning at very high levels. I'm proud of that work that's being done. I'm proud of all of my assistant principals and the work that they do at the grade level. And I'm proud of some of the new hires that we have found since I've been on board to come in as a behavior specialist, as teachers, as counselors. I'm just proud of our teacher induction program that we just created at the school. I'm very proud of Miss Candace Henry, the #1 high school teacher in the city is at our school, and tomorrow, hopefully, she'll be named the #1 overall teacher at the APS Awards tomorrow. So, and I mentioned Candace because Candace is leading the induction program, and what will that do? That will help us retain the brightest teachers in the area, and it will help them not only respond to the different levels, the tiered levels of instruction that they need to offer, but it also will help them deal with those different forms of trauma that we see. And that's what the induction piece is about. And I'm very proud of that. So we have laid the groundwork to continue to build on. And I'm very proud of the efforts of our student athletes. We ask a lot of them, right? Long days that they have, and they have to do well in the classrooms as well as on the playing fields. And I'm proud of the coaches that we have. So, and I tell them that. But I also hold them accountable at very high levels too, because I've been around long enough to know what it takes to make sure that our students respect us and we respect them and that we get the very best out of them. So those are all starting points for me. And I think that we have accomplished a lot in a little over 2.5 months together at Washington High School.
Any questions from the audience? We got one over here. Oh, we're going to get you a mic. We're going to get you a mic.
I'm originally from Rockford, Illinois, okay? So 2 Midwesterners together.
That's right.
So thank you for your information, and we're happy to have you here in Atlanta.
Glad
so
to
thank
be
you
here.
for choosing us.
Thank you.
Okay. So I came here to go to Atlanta University School of Social Work. And so many times I think African Americans, we run away from our mental health issues. And so we're trying to get back to them. And I'm hoping that, and maybe I can help out in regard to how we put a marriage together with maybe some of the graduate students at Clark Atlanta University, and maybe Morehouse and Spelman students. They've been very helpful in the past with your feeder school, which is M. Agnes Jones, which became the first APS school to be state certified in STEM, okay, throughout the whole system. It was on the south side of town, okay, and I thought that was very important just to mention to people who may not know it. It was in 2017. So I think there are a lot of opportunities for the community to work together with the schools. I'm part of the West End Rotary Club, so they're involved with Booker T. Washington as well.
Yes.
So I'd like to give you my information so we can see how we can continue to strengthen and work with the students there, because Booker T. Washington is just a historic high school in the southeastern United States.
Yes, thank you so much, and I would be glad to take your information. And when I mentioned Dr. Woolfolk, and I mentioned how she's an all-star principal, I thought I would capture all that just very quickly, but that's why she's an all-star principal. That was a heavy lift for her to, same demographics, and that was the first state STEM certified school. So that is a big lift. It's not easy to do it all. We're happy to still have her, because with that accomplishment, she can probably go anywhere that she wants to go.
And can I just say that Morehouse and Spelman were the students that helped to make that happen.
I know, she told me. Yes, it was a lot of help. They came when she called, and we're going to all be, our goal is to be state STEM certified by 2026. It's a heavy lift, and we're being guided through that process with Georgia Tech and the Seismic organization through STEM.
All right, another. Well, I see all the hands, and I'll kind of work that way.
Good morning. I'm again from Hollis Academy. We are a K-8 school. I'm very excited about the partnership that you have started with trying to find out what students are and what your expectation is, so allowing us to start that as 8th graders. And we kind of follow our students. I know I follow our students a lot and stay in touch with parents because normally we have siblings that are left at Hollis. And just because I'm very passionate about the kids that I serve, so when I see them out, I kind of try to keep in touch with them. And I have been a firm believer in technical, because when I was in school at Mays, we had technical and we had college prep. And I know that we're trying to deter some of the attendance and the desire for students to come to school, because non-traditional settings are just not for some of our at-risk students. So I know I speak to some of the parents, especially some of the kids that I could see doing very well in a technical program. I wanted to know how intentional are counselors informing them about the CTAE program that Atlanta Public School has?
First of all, thank you. We are working directly. I hope you were able to meet with Ms. Foy that I sent over to Hollis to start that vertical planning. We want every 8th grader from Hollis, and that's why I sent her so we can start that work. I work with Principal Brown all the time. I was with her yesterday. Hollis it's Washington and vice versa. We're the same thing, but our counselors are very intentional about letting our students choose the pathways that have their attention, right? Because we know that if we can dangle a carrot that they want, they're going to come to school. So our students are taking advantage through ACCA and through the dual enrollment program. They're really taking advantage of that. That's our population where we have perfect attendance, right? They love coming to school. So it's our goal to try to get more students enrolled in those programs. You are on the right page. I had an opportunity to build a school in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Early College Opportunities High School. I was with the group that helped to plan, implement, and now sustain. It's still going right now, but that school took the non-traditional learners that were frozen at their traditional schools around the city of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we brought them to Early College Opportunities and put them in pathways with aquaponics, auto mechanics. They were building tiny houses, but they were welding. This is everything that was CTAE, and we partnered with Santa Fe Community College, but what we saw was a leap in the graduation rate in Santa Fe, a leap in attendance. Serious incidents were down because they were hands-on. We were unpacking standards in science, English, math, and social studies and putting them into those PBLs, those project-based learning projects, where we took a Jeep donated to us, just a plain Jeep Wrangler, and we souped it up, but we had a curriculum wrote for that had math and science and English and social studies and tons of research. We took tiny houses and built tiny houses and sold tiny houses, and the attendance was amazing. Now, when they were at the traditional schools, they were not coming to school, they would fight, they came to school to skip, but we took that demographic, and the school is still going strong. I was part of a GO bond that was passed in the city to build a new facility. They broke ground on it last year. I'm going to fly back to Santa Fe and check it out as soon as it's open, just so I can say I was a part of that. So we're on the right page, and yes, we are. We're doing that big time. Thank you so much, and we're going to ramp it up even more.
Yeah, on behalf of the alumni, we are really glad to have you here in Washington High, and you just exude inspiration and motivation. Two questions sort of different. What is your policies and procedures in terms of student cell phones in the school, and how do you deal with that? And then the other one, in a year and a few months, 100 years since the beginning of Washington High. Now, I always add that the first black high school in the Southeast built for African Americans. Right. So I think that built part is important because there probably were some other high schools. But 100-year celebration coming up.
Absolutely.
So the cell phone and the 100-year celebration, what are we doing?
Have a cell phone celebration.
The cell phone and technology period has changed the way we approach education in schools. So I've been around long enough to remember when I was in high school, we didn't have any cell phones, right? I remember one of my classmates who just recently passed in Chicago was walking down the hallway in 1986 at Hyde Park Career Academy. He had this big giant thing with this case, and he was on, and we were like, "What is that? What is he doing?" And he was like, "I'm on the phone, excuse me." And I couldn't believe he was on the phone. And it was no policy then, right? And that was new technology. Assistant principals, they didn't know what to do. This kid was on the phone in the hallway. But quickly, as it started to evolve, we started to write policy against it. And I'm here to say that most schools have lost that battle of trying to eliminate cell phones from school. We lost. I think New York City, they put trucks outside of every school. The New York public schools, the schools district didn't do it. Those was private entities. They parked trucks all around the city and charged kids $2 to hold their phone. I don't know if that's still working, but they banned the phones from the school. Then tragedy struck in Colorado, right? And everyone said, wow, we're glad they had phones. So everyone started taking different approaches. School boards started doing different things. So right now, our students have cell phones, right? A lot of our students are heads of households. They need the cell phones. They're traveling across the city. They're picking up younger siblings. So it would be narrow-minded for us to think that they didn't need cell phones, but what we ask our students to do is to be respectful and disciplined and courteous, and our teachers don't mind if they step out to take a phone call, but we do know some young people are abusing that privilege by calling up family members when they're upset with someone. We saw some of those incidents play out since I've been in town. But we deal with it case by case, but we don't want to spray the crowd with policies when everyone in the crowd is not abusing. So we deal with it case by case. If we have to ban a cell phone for an individual, we will do that if they're not using it responsibly. But the cell phone also serves as a tool of academic excellence in the classroom too. It's a research tool. And if they don't have computers on some days, they use their phones. I took a kid to the media center to he didn't think he could get another laptop because he lost his laptop, but we do have things in place where he could, so he was doing his work on his cell phone. So I'm not going to ban cell phones. I'm just going to teach our young, take teachable moments, and we're going to teach our students how to be responsible, which will lead into being responsible adults. Oh, the 100-year, we live it every day. We're planning some big celebrations with the district, with the school, and with alumni. It's going to be celebrated not just in the city, but in the state as well as in the country. We're trying to plan several events the entire school year, the year of the centennial, but I think one of our biggest projects, the culminating event, Michelle Obama said she would come back for the 100-year celebration because before I came, Michelle Obama visited. And that was gigantic, right? So if she can come back and be our big guest speaker at our big centennial celebration, that would be great. So we're starting that work now to try to get on her calendar to see if she can make it back to celebrate the oldest African-American high school. And I don't take that lightly now. I went to 2 HBCUs, right? And so when I found that, I always knew about Booker T. Washington High School, but when I started to research to take the job, that's when I found that part out. But I went to Coahoma Community College, leaving Chicago. It was Coahoma Junior College at the time, like I said earlier, the only 2-year all-black historical black college. And then I went on to Alcorn State University in Lorman, Mississippi, where I did all of my undergraduate work. So I do take pride in knowing that if those institutions didn't exist, lots of black and brown students would not have had an opportunity to be educated. And same with the high school. So that's why we're going to celebrate it, and we're not going to stop celebrating. We're going to celebrate it before the 100th. So it's a big celebration plan. That's a great question. Thank you.
Good morning, Principal Wade.
Good morning, Mr. Green.
Earlier you spoke about kind of like the challenges as it relates to parental involvement. During your time so far at Booker T. Washington High School, have you heard from staff or even with parents some of the barriers that parents are experiencing and the ways that you all are working through trying to address that?
So it's a mindset we're trying to change. And just to be totally transparent, and this is not the only place I've seen it, and I need you to talk to everyone about this. Educators sometimes are guilty of, me included, we're guilty of assuming that our urban parents don't care. We're guilty of that. We're guilty of saying, I called them once, I called them twice, no one answered, no one came, so guess what, I'm not calling anymore. I'm pushing through that. I want to take it to them, so now we're going to do more home visits. In Philadelphia, it was nothing to see me sitting in a barbershop, in the laundromat. I went to where my parents were, and I found in many cases, I stopped blaming them for not coming because I really found out that they trusted us. That's why they didn't come. And they had other things to do. They really trusted us. So yes, you can trust us, but I really want you to know what's going on in the schools. So we don't stop using social media. We don't stop texting them. We don't stop with the, Miss Bambo, what do we do? Infinite Campus. We send out letters through our Infinite Campus platform. We don't stop sending things out because I'm not going to accept, and I don't want my teachers to accept that they don't care. They do care. But sometimes our parents have to work 2 jobs, sometimes 3. And they can't get to events at the school, but we do ask for our teachers to make those contacts, because if your student is struggling with attendance or academically, it's just not fair to fail a student if you haven't talked to a guardian or a parent. Some school districts have a policy that says if you don't contact someone, you can't fail them. What have you done to help them? And you can't do it alone as a school. So we have had a parent night for each grade level since I've been in town, and the turnout has been low, but we're not going to stop, and we're going to track. We have a baseline now, and I'm challenging each grade level leader, assistant principal, to get the contact numbers up. And we're going to have to be innovative. I'll take any idea that you have. If we need to have a concert to get them up, that's what we're going to do. If we need to have dinner, that's what I'm going to do. So those are the things, Benjamin, you asked about that we need help with. And that parental involvement piece is really big. Yes, trust us, but come and know exactly the language of what we're doing at the school. Know what it means a RIT score is, ready to learn score on the MAP assessment. Know what the milestones mean. Know what this means. Know what does it mean that you're going to be a school, a STEM school, school-wide? What does a PBL mean? Project-based learning. What does that mean? What does conflict resolution mean? Those things are the things. That's why we need to have our parents connected. And so the question came to me the other day. What's our equivalent of a soccer mom? What's our equivalent? Soccer moms, you know, are in schools all the time. Right. I let the echo define what I'm talking about. And so it's a middle ground, right? So soccer moms kind of take over schools, and our moms are kind of. So what? It's a rhetorical question. Don't answer me now. But answer me. What do we call our parents? Do we want them to be soccer moms? Or what do we want them to be? But we want them to be involved. We really want our parents to be involved, and I'm not going to stop until I can probably give the blueprint to the country.
I think part of what you're hinting at there is that, you know, that cultural competence piece doesn't just extend to the students, but it extends to their families. Because like you said, a lot of the circumstances that parents and students are dealing with are not what you'll see in the same proportions at other schools and other settings. So that is something that's key. And I think that's something that, frankly, when we were at Douglas together, that was one of the reasons why we appreciated you so much as students and so many other teachers there, was because you understood that piece. Right. And that's not something that can be overstated, because you can't get to teaching, and you can't get to teaching the whole student without that. Right. So that's definitely something worth noting.
That's right.
Bob Dickinson from STEAM Sports Foundation. Enjoyed meeting you earlier, William. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Data shows us that by 2025, 80% of the jobs in this country are going to be STEM-oriented. Also shows us that major emphasis on STEM and STEAM is ages K through 9, because by the time someone becomes 15, 16, 18, and they haven't grasped the STEM, and they've got all the diversions and distractions that come with being 15, 16, 18, that there's little hope of keeping them involved. With sports and entertainment and music and film being such a huge part of this culture and this city, have there been any discussions to use the STEM aspects to create content around sports, film, music, entertainment, to bring that older student back who may be getting some of those distractions, and giving them opportunities to show where career opportunities are in those industries, but needing to have some type of STEM or STEAM background to do so?
I agree. We're very creative and innovative. I'm not ruling anything out, but my experience, once again, with STEAM in Santa Fe, New Mexico, we were able to re-engage the older student. Research does show it's best if you engage them from K to 9, right? But in our cases, when we're trying to, we still have students that have to graduate, right? Even though they are attractive to those more hands-on project-based learning type of platforms, we still have to earn X amount of credits to graduate. So we're not going to give up on the 11th and 12th grader that is of age to be 11th and 12th grader, but not enough credits. We have to recover them at the same time, engage them at high levels so that they want to keep going and seek those professional pathways in areas like sports and entertainment. Because we all know that STEM runs very high on the technology piece in those areas, but not only with technology, I really think it's a lot going to happen in ag science, which is part of it also. So we just have to make sure that they know all the possible career pathways that they have. And that's the counseling team, the teachers, the assistant principals, the STEM specialists. They have to know what could be the possibilities in real time. So that's a challenge of ours, but we won't stop educating them and exposing them through training for our teachers so they can redeliver to our students. We have a group going to visit STEM schools in the state. We have groups going to visit some of the biggest technology conferences in the country to really come back and redeliver. So we don't go to conferences just to hang out and eat dinner and miss time from school. We really have to come back and redeliver and put some things in place, implement some things in place that are sustainable and work for our children. So that's a challenge. It's ongoing. We haven't mastered it yet, but we're definitely really linked into all pathways, not just sports and entertainment, but how technology and STEM is going to change the face of everything that we do. We've already seen it. It's happening. And so with things like AI, though I saw some things this summer at a conference, at the ISTE conference in New Orleans, I just saw, if I record my voice and my face, and even when I leave here, I can still be here through AI and artificial intelligence. So I want some of our students to be on the front end of that research and technology. I want our students to be part of the space travel movement. I got a funny feeling in 40, 50 years, people are going to be living in space. I can see it happening with some of the breakthrough. I want our students to be a part of that. I want our students to be a part of creating sustainable, healthy food in areas where food can't be grown, food deserts. I saw it out in Santa Fe. It's literally a desert, right? And you have to be, and that's why aquaponics was really big. So our students have to be on the breaking research of that. And I know it can happen because I know of several students that I have crossed paths with in Atlanta, Philadelphia, Memphis, Santa Fe. They're in that work now, really, really working in that work. I have a first cousin that works with NASA now, came from the same demographics, but every time a rocket goes up right now, he's a part of it. His name is Christopher Wade. He works with SpaceX, with Elon Musk, and he works with NASA, who contracts him to Elon Musk. And I talk about him everywhere I go because I know of the demographics. And I just know it can happen for us, and I'm going to continue to create those pathways of learning for our young people.
Not to mention a lot of those tech companies are now here in Atlanta. You know, you got
That's
Microsoft right around the corner, you got Google, you got some of these other companies. So it would be great to sort of establish that pipeline from, you know, a community that's been underserved for a long time to help sort of expedite the process of closing that racial inequity gap, not just at the education level, but in terms of the wealth gap as well, because these aren't just, you know, future building careers, they're also high paying careers.
That's right.
And you know, you talk about ending the cycles of generational poverty, well that in one regard is a way to do it, so I'm excited.
That will do it. It's happening right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, I just wanted to quickly say that I appreciate the way you think and work outside of the box.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I, for one, know that in the technical college arena, the film industry and AI courses are being taught, so it would be good for some of the high school students to feed into that. I just really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Wade. Welcome to Atlanta. Welcome to the Westside. And particularly welcome to Booker T. Washington High School. My question is, as we speak of the illustrious graduate, Dr. King, I was taught by some of the people that taught him as a product of Washington High. And core values of reading, writing, and arithmetic, but reasoning and respect was kind of left out. Can we put that back with STEM to help us in that trajectory? And lastly, there is a book that has there are about 630 streets named after Dr. King. And I don't know how many Booker T. Washington. I have the book. If you didn't have a copy of it, I'd get one to Mr. Earley, if you didn't have one. So my question is, do you have a book?
No, I don't. I would love to have one.
This is our local historian, Mr. Timmerwell. He knows everything about the West Side there is to know.
Oh, wow. That's good. That's good. I would like
clear
to
your
talk.
schedule before you take a call with him, no, I'm gonna tell you.
Hey, I would like to talk with you more. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you again for being here. And I'm a native Atlantan, so I know the significance of Booker T. Washington High School. But I don't think everyone knows that. And so I guess my question is, do you have a tour? Do you have a tour through the historic Booker T. Washington High School that can be listed with the Chamber of Commerce? Others should know about this institution and its history and what it means to not just Georgia and not just to Atlanta, but to the U.S. So I think it would be really, really valuable for it to be on a historic tour for the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, Ms. Bambo, please make note of that. So we do, mostly the group that's touring now is alumni, and we just had an event recently, but we restore, we make sure that we preserve the school. Most of the schools in Atlanta are rebuilt and brand new, but we keep Booker T, I'm looking because I see it on the screen, we keep Booker T. Washington High School as is, but it's really updated on the inside. But the structure and we have a media center that is our museum, and I think it will be great. It would be great for folks outside of the city and in the state to really tour the building. It's with Atlanta being so big in the film industry now, we get a call every week for movies to be filmed at the school. The site scouts come out and look at the location. They love it. We had a movie, Disney filmed something there during our fall break. Tyler Perry's coming in during our next break. But they get it. They realize that it's historical. And we're going to put, that's a great idea. We're going to put see if we can check with the Chamber of Commerce and get that listed.
Thank you so much. And to that point, we are actually a part of the historical tours of Atlanta. So if you take an historical tour with Atlanta, they will bring you by Booker T. Washington High School. And Ms. Wynn, our historian, she provides tours as well. But my question to you, Principal Wade, is if you could provide maybe 3 immediate things that we could perhaps ask of the audience or the individuals tuning in, what could be maybe 2 to 3 things that individuals could do more on the immediate side to help support you, your efforts, and just Booker T. Washington as a whole?
Number one, use your platform to tell everyone about us. Use your platform to tell everyone about us and what's going on. I'm not a talking head. We work. We're intentional. We're progress monitoring our growth. We're going to make adjustments. We're going to modify in motion. So everything you want to know, just please share it on your platform. If you have any connection with Booker T. Washington High School, we would love for everyone to know about what we're doing. Number 2, we're trying to incentivize through a PBIS program, our students to come to school. We want to give them some awards for doing the right thing. One of them is getting to school on time, not missing any classes. And we also, the third thing, we want to do the same thing for our parents. That's the low-hanging fruit. We can do those things immediately. We have some funding, thanks to the Westside Future Funds. We have some funding to possibly bring in CIS that's going to help us in those areas too. And in the budget that we pay them to do that, they have those things built in. So that's some, but we need an enormous amount to keep going. We do have some money in the general budget, but I promise you I'm going to spend every penny of that. We almost have half of it spent now. We have it earmarked moving forward for different projects and innovation that we're doing. But we need incentives for parents and students, and we need to use your voice to tell our story. That's big right now. You have some folks over here.
All right, I see 2 hands, all right.
Good morning, Dr. Tate. I was online, but made it here.
Okay.
So I've been here all the time. I, as you see, am now a resident faculty at Tuskegee University, where the first statue of lifting the veil existed. I'm an art historian, historic preservationist, and so online I asked, why not art and STEAM? You have a great and rich art program at Booker T. Washington. You have a fabulous art teacher,
Yes.
Sachi Rome.
Yeah.
We need to paint the West Side, and my nonprofit does murals. I see I got a fan club, so that is my question.
I agree.
I'm sorry. And we need to connect students with Tuskegee in a program to get them to college.
We just got back. We sent every 9th grader to Tuskegee last week, and it's an exciting trip for them. For some of them, that's their first time leaving Atlanta. For most of them, it was their first time on a college campus outside of Atlanta. So we want to create pipelines to all of our historical Black colleges and universities. And we definitely need to paint the West Side. We need to tell our story, and no one can tell our story better than us. And I've had this conversation with our art teacher, and she gets it and she's ready to go. We just need to probably find some funding, a plan, and follow through. Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Thank you for being on our team.
Not a native Atlantean. I'm from Newark, New Jersey, but we are covered in a lot of Black history, so I'm glad she's bringing that up as well, because that's one of the things that helped me in high school kind of reel that in. But my question was basically, how are you guys prepared to deal with a lot of the, I call it PTSD, basically, that I was going through in high school? I know a lot of my friends were going through as well, so with the parents and the children, being able to corral that in and get all the kids to understand or help them through that trauma, that way that when they get to school, they're able to focus on that and not just go through the motions and kind of dealing with what the parents are going through at the same time. So how are you guys at the school kind of helping bring the parents and the kids in to be able to be comfortable talking about the trauma? Because that was a lot of the things that I've experienced with a lot of my friends growing up, is that they weren't comfortable talking about it with the school and believed that they would help.
Small group communication and large group communication, letting our parents know that we have our own social worker in school. We have our guidance counselors. We have Hazel Health, which is going to do the telehealth piece for our full student, physical and mentally. and we just take it case by case, and we see it every day, and we all become reporters. We have to do the referrals. We have to make them comfortable. We have to talk to them about it. We have to let them know that it's okay to be uncomfortable. And once we do, we've noticed that once students embrace the trauma that they've gone through, they become really strong leaders because they've gone through a lot. Case in point, me, right? Traumatic. My father died when I was 16 in Chicago. He was 40 from colon cancer. That's traumatic. When my mother's 36 with 5 kids, and that's trauma. And you try to tune that out because you still have to go to school. So I was able to, after a tough time in high school, and luckily my folks had deep roots in the South and with historically black colleges and universities, I had somewhere to go, but at the same time, I knew how to focus after that because I really had to focus, or that trauma that I went through would have derailed me. But even then, I didn't tell anyone. I just kept pushing through myself. I didn't tell anyone. I'm thinking how much clearer things could have been if I would have had an opportunity to talk to someone. My mother was 36. She didn't talk to anyone. She just pushed through. She just kept pushing through. That's what we're taught to do as black and brown people. Be tough. Suck it up, buttercup. That's what they tell us, you know. And instead of just saying, hey, I need to sit down and talk to somebody. You know, we were told, you're not a victim. You still have a roof over your head. You still have food. You're not a victim. You can't. You know, we were victims. And we have it now. So we've accepted that. And with those stories and the experiences that we've had, we're going to be able to guide our young people at Booker T. Washington High School. And not only are we going to tell them in public settings like this that it's okay, we're going to isolate them and bring them in and we're doing that already. We're doing a lot of that. We've had some breakthrough cases in my short time at Booker T. Washington High School. We've really had some breakthrough cases where we can see a change in students because we've connected them with the help and the resources.
I think the irony there is when you don't acknowledge the initial trauma, the initial victimhood, it doesn't allow you to grow out of being a victim.
Right.
And I think that's the key part that gets lost in the conversation a lot of times when we talk about trauma and when we talk about, you know, who's suffered through things. It's not for the sake of just, you know, a competition of who's the biggest victim. Like, no, it is a way for us to air those grievances so that we can collectively move past them. And another thing that is a key part for that cultural competence, because for somebody that's not a part of black culture, that's not a part of urban black culture, and specifically Atlanta, because it's a very, very distinct demographic, you know, you can look at those conversations and have no idea that, you know, we're not seeking to be victims for the sake of being victims. We're seeking to acknowledge the things that have happened to us so that we can then garner the strength to move past them. And I think that's really important for what we're doing.
That's important.
How you doing, sir?
Yes, sir.
If I could, I need to do some very quick stuff. Tracy Bates, raise your hand. Tracy Bates, meet Principal Wade. Principal Wade, meet Tracy Bates. She needed to work with Ms. Brewer to do some oral and video documentation of Washington High. So that's done.
Okay.
I was supposed to do that some time ago. Dr. Tate, when we was on the board, we decided to go STEM instead of STEAM. The requirements for the arts were not fully developed on the state level. So we could go STEM certified and not STEAM certified. So that's why all of our clusters are going STEM and not STEAM. Last but not least, Dr. Wade, tell us about Heal the Westside and how we can get involved. I can't allow you to miss this opportunity.
Right, so we had a traumatic incident my 3rd week in town. After school, we had a young man and a young lady that got into an altercation verbally in the school. She called her family, and he left school early. He went and got a weapon, and she went and got some people with weapons. And after school, at around 4:19, they had a shootout on the corner of Beckwith and White House. We were blessed that no students were around, just those individuals. But immediately, I was already thinking about how can I create a platform that can create change around this widespread trauma that we see all the time. Poor decision-making, that was trauma meeting trauma again, right? So we created Heal the Westside. And we had, on the first meeting, we had close to 100 people show up in our media center, and we started talking. We had open dialogue about some of the things that we need to help to curtail these types of decisions being made in our community, because we hear about them every night. We hear about conflict turning into violence instead of conflict being resolved. So that's the hopes of Heal the Westside. You can check with Ms. Bambo before we leave. She'll give you the next scheduled date, but we have moved into the committee forming at this time so that we just can't be talking heads. We want to really put some things in action. We have a fundraising committee that's going to raise funds to try to offset. And in this, we're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about safety and security. We're talking about everything that we can do, not only that protects our school, but protects the West Side, the surrounding areas. And it's going to call on a lot of you to really be vocal about this and really identify some things that we need to do. So we're still really identifying our needs assessment for Heal the West Side, but it's a call to action created by me at the school and supported by everyone. So we need your help. We don't have all the answers. We need everyone to help us formulate the blueprint for not only the west side of Atlanta, but hopefully for all of our urban areas suffering through young people with challenges, making bad decisions. We saw it play out in Houston the other night with one of the most popular groups of our time, and it played out in a very bad way. Violence, a discussion leads to violence and a death. And we have to get away from that, and a lot of people have given up on that. A lot of people have really just given up and say, I heard someone say, well, it's over, it's going to get worse, it's going to continue to get worse. It's not going to get worse if we get together and use and get some folks with these gigantic platforms to talk about what can we do to really let people know enough is enough around senseless violence, poor decision making. It's absolutely ridiculous, and our black and brown young people, male and female, especially our males that are being affected by this violence, our black young men deserve to grow old and die with their families by their sides. They just deserve that. Deserve that. And they should not have to walk around armed every day. It's just ridiculous. I'm 53 and I'm not armed. Never had to be armed because I make the right decisions. I surround myself with the right people, and the people that I can't surround myself with, I try to make them a better person too, and try to come into our fold by making better decisions. So I've always done that, and I hope that I can spread that to everyone through Heal the West Side. Ms. Bambo will give you some dates before we go if you want to help out. Or you can always call the school too and reach us at the school also.
And Ms. Gigi Sands on Facebook, I hope that answers your question. But just a little bit more on Heal the West Side. I was happy to see so many organizations represented at that first meeting. We had folks from Raising Expectations. We had folks from Hope Hustlers, which is an amazing organization that's working to help, get rid of some of that violence by actually having conversations with at-risk youth between them and people who have lived that side of life. We also had Chris 180. Yes. It was a lot of organizations that are known for doing heavy lifting here on the West Side. So please, 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 whatever you can do, whether you can be a in-person contributor or whether you can connect us to resources or be a resource, it will go a long way. So please get with Ms. Bambo as far as the future dates for the next meetings. But we're happy to have this be a collective effort throughout the community.
And I must add, Ben, in movements like this, the biggest thing that creates obstacles is that when we have momentum, we don't seize it. Mm-hmm. We have to seize the momentum that we have now and the attention around it. Yeah. And we're not the only ones in this country trying to figure this out. We have to figure this out because it seems like something is happening every night, and then on the grand scale, something is happening every month, like big incidents of violence and poor decision making. So there's lots to talk about, and please join us at the next Heal the West Side meetings and committee meetings.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our special guest, Principal Wade.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Appreciate you joining, sir.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, man.
All right. I will continue.
All right, brother. I'm looking forward to coming and hollering at you again at the Booker T. Washington High School.
Come on, you know where to find me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm there at 6:30 every morning.
I know. Now, I ain't going to be there that early. I'm going to tell you right now.
All right. Thank you all. I'll be here as long as you want me to be, okay?
All right, brother. Well,
All
one
right.
more round of applause. Now we're going to bring back up Mr. John Ahmann, President and CEO, top dog of the Westside Future Fund. And I'm hoping that this conversation, doesn't just remain a conversation, that we can actually take these actionable items and actually go, full steam ahead. Because like Principal Wade said, this is a unique moment where we have the attention of, the collective community. And even Mayor Dickens, when he was addressing the incident with Takeoff, he went back to some of his points of what his vision is for ending those racial inequities that really loom big here on the West Side. So I'm hoping that the connections that are made here at the summit can be a great contributor to changing some of those circumstances. No,
and I think one of the, and I heard Helen from our board ask the question, but one thing, Principal, back to the tours, because, I found doing the tours of the West Side, you would think people had better awareness, but we got to help them along with that. But if there's a way, because maybe on weekends and stuff, if we could figure out, because we would definitely love to partner with you as part of the touring, because the touchstone of the inspiration of Booker T. Washington is so impactful. So thanks for that suggestion. To one of your points about action items. But that was a great conversation, and thank you for giving us so much of your time this morning and being so accessible. So thank you very much. Maybe give one more round of thank you. And thank Ms. Bambo, our devotion speaker, one more time. Thank you.
Bambo.
I think we're going to show a video, I think, next. Are we showing a video, the crew? Ride for the West Side?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We wanted to, so we had a very successful ride for the West Side. And part of the win of the Ride for the West Side is building awareness. A lot of people that came over for the ride was the first time they'd really been around the West Side. So that's, I guess we're showing, it's more some pictures.
Yeah, a few highlights from the day.
Yeah, highlights from the day.
We had over 200 folks that came out. There was a walking tour, riding tour, running tour, and they all stopped by significant West Side landmarks such as Booker T. Washington High School. And it was all for a great cause, John.
Man, I look so sporty. That was
good. Man, now you were sporting it. Freddie Falcon was your biggest fan out there. But yeah, it was a great turnout, and we actually, helped raise some funds to go toward the Home on the West Side program, which, if you're not familiar with Home on the West Side, it is Westside Future Fund's flagship program that provides deeply affordable housing to legacy residents of the historic West Side. In other words, we're helping fight against the displacement of legacy residents by ensuring that they have affordable homes, and that extends not just to rental units, but also to single-family home owning opportunities, as well as property tax relief for legacy homeowners.
All right. Well, thank you. We're going to do this again next year. And I know now we want to move, as we wind up our summit, we want to announce the winners for our Home Depot gift card. So, so the first one Home Depot or Goodwill?
The blue one is Goodwill.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, how about that? All right. So the first one will be for the Home Depot. The ticket number is 130307.
That's the blue ticket. All right.
All right.
Congratulations.
Come on down. Thank you.
You ready for your close-up at the camera right there? Smile for the camera. There you go.
Thank you. All right. The Goodwill is 3990714. 3990714.
That's the red ticket.
Nobody?
Somebody alarm wanted. Okay.
Do we have? We'll try one more, and then maybe.
All right.
All right, 3990704.
Nobody?
All right.
Maybe they left early.
Well, we're going to give it to our devotion speaker. Thank her for.
All right. Ms. Bambo, congrats.
All right. Well, and I think as we wind down the summit, want to thank everyone for coming again, and we'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll be with. I think you'll be leading the conversation.
Yeah, historic Westside Gardens. Westside's very own Ms. Rosario Hernandez here, and all of the fantastic work they do to help alleviate some of that food desert stuff that's happening here on the West Side. We appreciate.
And it's not just a food desert, because she shared with me a recent video that she had of a resident who was talking about her community garden helped improve her blood pressure, improve her diabetes. Yeah. So there's a very powerful health aspect to the work as well.
Well, they take a holistic approach to food and nutrition, and so we're excited to hear about that. Again, thanks to all of our Ride for the West Side sponsors. We appreciate you. Yep. We had you listed just a second ago, but thank you. We could not have done it without you, and we look forward to doing it again next year. Again, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Stay engaged with us. We'll stay engaged with you until November 18th. We'll see y'all. Appreciate it.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command, like, yeah, you about to see me on demand, like, you know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, man, we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor.